Hello guys, welcome to another driving test video. So this was a test at Bromley Driving Test Center on the 13th of August 2022, which was a Saturday, and the test took place at 2:32 in the afternoon. Now unfortunately this was a fail, and it was sad the way it actually happened because the learner failed just at the beginning of the driving test. So just right at the beginning, as you are just about to see. And this just re-emphasizes the point of staying really calm, really calm. Now, from what you see right now, we are parked next to another car on the right, and there is another bay in between our car and the car on the right. And this was because I told the learner to make sure she kept a space in between herself and the car beside her when she came into the test center in the first place and parked. Now I noticed the nerves was already kicking off at that point, so I tried to help her stay calm and help in making decisions to pick in a bay. Now remember, like I would always emphasize, don't park next to another car, especially on your test, because then you have one more thing to deal with. But at this point, examiner came through and they now sat in the car, and she was instructed to go out of the bay and reverse into any bay of her choice again. So maybe you would have thought she would pick the one she literally just came out of, but that didn't happen. And unfortunately, she wanted to park into the bay we had actually kept open initially, just to give us some space from that other car. And why did she do that? She was nervous. She was no longer thinking straight. And this is what happens when you're nervous. You're no longer in control. There is no communication between your eyes and your mind. And you would see a danger, yet drive into it or reverse into it. And this is exactly what happened. So let's watch. So at this point, she is now trying to reverse into the bay next to the car without realizing how close she's gotten to that car now. And when she realized, she tried to steer away from the car while reversing, but then you're too close to the car already, which will make it a wrong choice. So as she moves backwards now, it got even too close to the car. So examiner comes in at this point and stops the car. There you go. So right there, that was the end of the test. Literally. Not the end in practice, but well, yeah, she had already failed at this point. And but she thought she could still salvage the problem, which is good. It's always good to still give it a try, but unfortunately at this point, it only made situation worse, because then she tried to park next to the car again this time around, but on the other side. So the target bay now was the bay where I'm actually sitting at, if you look on the base, which again still a problem. And as you would see here again, we haven't solved anything. So she's not moving two bays away from the bay that she intended to park, and this is the same problem we're having on the side again. Now, did she know this? Yes. Why didn't she do it? Nerves. So guys, you've really got to try and stay calm. Stay calm on your test. Don't let nerves take charge of it. And at this point, the examiner decides to cancel the parking and instructed her to continue with the test. Now, if you're coming out from this side at Bromley, then be very careful, because as you come through this alleyway, you're going to be landing onto a pedestrian footpath. So slow down a lot, because there could be a cyclist or a pedestrian or a child running through at this point, as you can see. So be very careful if you're coming out from this side because of that pedestrian footpath. Keep that in mind. When moving off from a busy road, once you've done your observation and you've looked around, remember, put your signal on, because that way drivers passing by would know that you want to move off, and potentially someone could give you way. Other than that, everyone just keeps passing and they wouldn't know you're trying to move off, and that would mean you'll be there for a longer time. So keep that in mind when you're moving off from a busy road. Because sometimes I do say that learners are waiting until they actually see an opportunity before signaling right, which in my own opinion just counters the whole point of a signal, letting people know what you intend to do on time. Remember that because you're pulled up on a road where the space is narrow and you're more or less still in the road does not mean that you shouldn't signal moving off, because you still need to let people know that you're going to be moving off. And this is the whole point of a right signal when you're moving off in these situations, because again, sometimes learners often assume they do not need a signal when moving off because you're more or less already in the road. But then imagine someone passing you by and not expecting that you're going to move off, and they were intending to cut back in front of you to get into the lane, and then you move off at that point. It can be dangerous. So keep this in mind, and this is where you may be given a minor fault if you don't signal moving off in situations like this, because then it would be necessary to signal. So keep this in mind. learner was given one minor fault for lane discipline. Now, I believe this happened after turning right at this traffic light. Now, if you observe the positioning of the car and you look at the car behind, you notice that when she turned right, she straddled a little bit in the middle of the two lanes initially before getting back into the left lane properly when turning here. And you would have noticed as well from the rear view that there was a car trying to pass on the right, but then because of the positioning, the driver had to hold back and wait until she actually positioned properly on the left. And then at that point, the black car was able to pass. So keep this in mind. This might have been given as a minor fault, which is generous and good, but another examiner could give you a serious fault for this similar situation. So keep that in mind. Remember, if you're not sure which lane you need to be on, at least just remind yourself your left is always your normal driving position. While you're thinking, sit in your normal driving position. And if you cannot make up your mind on time, then it's okay. Continue wherever the floor marking directs you in that lane. But if you're planning ahead in the first place, maybe you might just avoid that. So remind yourself, remember, lane positioning is very important. Lane discipline is likewise very important. Now, the situation you're about to see ahead is one of those situations you always pray not to meet on your driving test. Now, to be fair on my learner, the car was positioned at an angle where you could not actually see that the car was trying to reverse because you can't see the light from that angle. So she positions herself to the right in attempt to try and pass the vehicle. But as you get closer, then you'd realize that the reverse light was on. So probably one of those cars where you only have one reverse light on the side. So, and as close as she got, then at that point the vehicle starts to reverse with the learner driver just behind, and this is what you see right here. Now luckily, well, it's one of those things I say examiners are not there to fail you. They would make the right decisions in most cases whenever situations like this happens. Now, looking at the report sheet, there was no fault at all given here because it was clearly not the learner's fault. This driver has come again. Now, could not find any other place to do a U-turn but in front of my learning driver, and does this just as soon as she moves off from the side of the road, and then this driver takes a random U-turn. But again, God is with you. As you can see, there was no fault given here again, because there was nothing we could have done differently. So yep, it's just one of those situations again we hope to not meet on our driving test, because if it was to be in a different way, or this happened in a different circumstance, it could have been causing someone else a fail on their test. Now remember that when turning right, you should stop when your right mirror is in line with the center line of the road you're turning into. Take your time and carry out effective observation at junctions. The learner got a minor fault for observation here, but this could have easily been given as a serious fault. As you can see the situation there, that car was coming from the right and could have been spotted, but the learner went through and that car had to slow down there. So be very careful at junctions. Don't rush it. Check properly before going off. And at this point, they are now returning to the test center. And unfortunately, if not for that nerve-wracking situation at the beginning, it would have been a pass for this test. So on the screen right there are the faults in total for the test. Now, so remember, stay calm, relax, and make the right decisions. Most of the times when parking maneuvers go wrong, it is always mostly for the wrong choice at the beginning, especially when it comes to your bay parking. So pick the right bay before you start attempting to park. And remember, if you're picking your bay, you should be counting forward 2 bays away from the bay you want to park in to make your reference. Or if you're including the bay that you're parking in, then you should be counting 3 bays forward, which means you'll be reversing into the first bay. So keep this in mind. Relax, stay calm, and best of luck. Now remember guys, I would really appreciate it if you found this video useful. Then don't forget to click the like button, leave a comment below if you have any questions, and remember, if you're referring to any point in this video, put a timeline on your comment so that it's easier for me to identify which part or specific point you're referring to. So yep, that's it. Remember, look out for the other videos, and don't forget, it is not always only to watch the video for the test center that you're having your testing, because remember, the whole point of this is to learn from mistakes and situations that occur on the road, apart from actually being aware of the test center and the test route, of course. So it's learning from other people's mistakes. There's a lot you can learn from other people's videos that is not necessarily the test center you're actually driving at. or doing your test at. So keep this in mind. Click on the channel page and go through the playlist and see whatever you could find interesting to yourself. So yeah, best of luck and happy Easter. Oh no, happy August bank holiday. So enjoy your weekend and enjoy your bank holiday. Stay safe and best of luck again.